I enjoyed your book about the Lost City, and I believe you're the one who can help me find its treasure.
I have to respectfully decline.
I'm afraid I must insist.
Unchain me!
That's your seatbelt.
Loretta Sage is missing.
I'm gonna rescue her. I just want her to think of me as more than a cover model.
Let's start living dangerously.
Alan, what are you doing here?
We're here to save you.
The Lost City was very, very funny. I found myself laughing out loud in the cinema quite a lot, which is, I feel like, very rare sometimes.
Right.
Yeah. So I guess just to dive in, what was the kind of, I imagine it must have been very hard to kind of keep it together on set because you're all constantly bouncing off of each other. There's not like one comedic relief. You all have different elements of the comedy kind of looped through your roles. So was there any kind of moment where you just absolutely lost it? Daniel, if you want to start.
I mean, I think I was always so freaked out about not screwing things up that I probably like didn't lose it that much, but that was mostly just through fear. Like I was able to control it through massive anxiety about screwing up the take.
Yeah, there you go.
But yeah, I feel
He
like
was it's what we call professional.
Right.
Daniel is incredibly professional.
that's very kind.
But we had to shoot a lot in a short amount of time. So even though we unraveled, we were very aware that we were wasting time, and if we didn't get it that day, we weren't going to get it.
Right.
But there was that's not to say that there wasn't constant unraveling that we had to sort of pull back together. And I think we were just so happy to be in the presence of another human being that wasn't who we lived with.
Yes.
You know, anything that anyone said was hysterical.
Right. It's another person not on a screen.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
I guess obviously your character has so much kind of, there's an interesting depth to it, even though you're in this kind of like very hyper real comedy world. How did you approach fleshing her out a little bit more?
Well, when we started working on the script, it was literally a page by page, just dig into what kind of characters do we want to see, what works, how do we get all the tones together. Comedy isn't funny anymore, I don't think, unless it has real, like, not tragedy, but just depth. I mean, you need the balance of the sadness. Yeah, it needs to be there. Otherwise, if it's just all one note, you have no place to go. And then it's just, I think that's when it becomes sort of campy and vaudevillian, and I can't do that very well. But it just naturally, what didn't work went away, and what worked and what we needed to embrace became really obvious.
Right. And one of the moments I found very, like, there's a lot of physical comedy in it just based on the fact that you're like running around this crazy kind of set. The scene in the hammock with Channing Tatum, was that choreographed? How did you kind of do that?
We had one rehearsal where we just had it hanging outside, and we got in and we said, this is kind of the idea of what we're gonna do, but Channing and I don't like to physically rehearse things too much if it doesn't mean, if it's not something dangerous. So because the more you do it, the more it becomes rote, and you can, our bodies could assume what the other one, and it just became sort of, so we rehearsed that outside in front of the crew, just say, ballpark, it's going to be something like this. And then 2 months later we shot it, and we just said, just roll the camera when we get overhead, let's see if anything fun comes out of it.
And then Daniel, for you, obviously your career's kind of, it's been so interesting to watch your career develop. How do you go about choosing the different roles that you're taking on? Because this is very different to some other roles, and I feel like there's an interest there in seeing you grow.
Well, I think I'm just in an incredibly fortunate position and found myself in that position much earlier than most people do, to be able to just pick things because I want to do them and for no other reason than that. You know, and do things that I think are going to make me happy to do, but also be, you know, fulfilling. And this, when I read the script, I was just like, yeah, I mean, I think also a good blanket rule is make the films that you would want to see. And I read this and I was like, I want to watch this movie. Like, it's, and if I get to be a part of it, then, you know, even better. So yeah, it was a very, you know, it's the chance to work with Sandra and Channing, the chance to like play this sort of a bad guy, but it kind of, you know, in a funny way as well. Like, it just seemed like it was a good, good fit.
And it's nice to see a film that's not, I mean, there's all the conversation around existing IP kind of being remade and remade, but this did feel, even though you can see the elements of like Indiana Jones and all these other films, it felt fresh. It felt
we heard that a lot. They kept saying, there's no comp for this, so we really can't go beyond this. And we're like, well, okay, let's become the comp.
Right.
Let's become the, you know, and look, I understand you can't make a movie and assume that people are going to go see it. Why invest all that money if it's a dud? And So we took that very very seriously, and we were like, okay, well let's be the ones to show that this can be just as attractive as, you know, an IP film, or you know, and it doesn't have to be an insane budget.
Right.
You know, so it's scary, but I'm glad we were in that position because it feels good when it works.
And I think, I mean, I'm just one person, but I thought it worked. I had a great time.